हेलो ऑल, आई होप यू आर ऑल डूइंग वेल। तो आज हम बात करेंगे इलेक्ट्रोकार्डियोग्राम के बारे में, जिसे हम कॉमनली ईसीजी या ईकेजी भी कहते हैं। सो नाउ व्हाट इज एन इलेक्ट्रोग्राम? इलेक्ट्रोग्राम एक ग्राफिक रिकॉर्ड है किसका? वोल्टेज वर्सेस टाइम of the electrical activity of the heart, and this we measure using electrodes that we place at different places on the body. Now these electrodes, they detect the small electric changes, right? And these changes are a consequence of the cardiac muscle depolarization followed by repolarization that will occur during a cardiac cycle. Now, electrocardiography is the process of using an electrocardiograph. Now, electrocardiograph is a device जिससे हम electrocardiogram को प्रोड्यूस करते हैं। ठीक है, तो electrocardiogram is the paper, it's the graphical paper जिसके ऊपर ये रिप्रेजेंटेशन आया है। और जो इलेक्ट्रोकार्डियोग्राफ है, दैट इज अ डिवाइस। ये जो आप डिवाइस देख पा रहे हो, द इलेक्ट्रोड्स दैट आर प्लेस्ड on different parts of the body. So this device is known as electrocardiograph, and the paper that is being produced, जिसके ऊपर ये signals आते हैं, this is an electrocardiogram. ठीक है, जो नॉर्मल हम मैथमेटिक्स में ग्राफ और ग्राम को समझते हैं, यहाँ पे उसका उल्टा हो जाता है. This is how you can remember. Now, father of electrocardiography is William Einthoven, जिसको 1901 में इस इन्वेंशन के लिए नोबेल प्राइज भी मिला था. Now, if we see key components of an ECG wave, which is very important, ये usually exam में आता है, तो देखिए एक स्टैंडर्ड हार्ट रिदम जो है उसके अंदर कुछ डिस्टिंक्ट वेव्स होती हैं, एंड प्राइमरली देयर आर थ्री वेव्स: P wave, then there is a QRS complex, and then there is a T wave, right? अब इस डायग्राम को अगर आप समझोगे, so if this is the baseline, इससे जो ऊपर वेव्स आ रही हैं, that is the P wave, the QR wave, right, and the T wave. ये baseline से ऊपर है, so these are considered as positive waves. The S wave, which is below the baseline, so this we considered as the negative wave, right? Further, जो P wave है, right, this P wave, this at 0.2 seconds, we get a very small wave, right, which at the gap of 0.2 seconds आपको पहली wave मिलती है जिसे हम P wave कहते हैं, and this P wave represents atrial depolarization. ठीक है, एंड डीपोलराइजेशन का मतलब क्या हुआ कि जब इलेक्ट्रिकल एक्टिविटी एट्रिया में शुरू होगी, ठीक है, ट्रांसमिशन होगा वहां से, जिससे जब एट्रियम दोनों ऑरिकल्स कॉन्ट्रैक्ट करेंगे तो ब्लड आ जाएगा टुवर्ड्स द वेंट्रिकल्स. सो बेसिकली द पी वेव, राइट, दिस शोज द एट्रियल कॉन्ट्रैक्शन which is occurring towards the later half of the P wave. And contraction क्यों हो रहा है? Because of the depolarization which is being set, right? So the P wave, it represents atrial contraction, atrium contraction. Atrium contraction क्यों हुआ? Because of the depolarization wave that gets set, right? So the P wave is nothing but atrial depolarization. Then the QRS complex wave, ये एक larger wave है, ठीक है, longer signal है, जिसका जो peak है that is at 0.4 seconds, and this represents the electrical signal traveling through the ventricles as they will pump the blood to the rest of the body. So basically the QRS wave, it represents ventricular contraction which is achieved by ventricular depolarization, right? And lastly, the T wave, which is again a positive wave, this represents the heart muscles recovering and coming to a rest position, right? So this is wider and taller than the P wave, if you can see it. And this represents ventricular repolarization. That means ventricular diastole. और यहाँ पर it is like we can say this represents a joint diastole also, because auricles by now जब ventricular depolarization या ventricular सिस्टोल हो रहा है, जिसे हम वेंट्रिकुलर कॉन्ट्रैक्शन या वेंट्रिकुलर डीपोलराइजेशन कह रहे हैं, तो इस टाइम पे ऑरिकल्स तो रिलैक्स हो ही गए हैं, ठीक है, तो ऑरिकल्स यहाँ तक ऑलरेडी रिलैक्स स्टेट में है, they have been repolarized. Now ventricles also repolarize, ventricles also achieve resting potential, so we can say that the T wave, it also represents a joint diastole. So once again, the P wave, in short, this represents atrium contraction, which is atrial depolarization. The QRS wave, this represents ventricular contraction, ventricular systole, or to say ventricular depolarization. The T wave, which is wider and taller as compared to the P wave, which is a positive wave, this shows ventricular repolarization, or we can say this represents a joint diastole. So next, the conventional ECG is a 12-lead ECG. So is 12-lead ECG में actually 10 electrodes, they are placed on the patient's limbs and on the surface of chest. So ये जो leads हैं, they are broken into three types. There is the limb lead, then there is an augmented limb lead, and there are precordial or chest leads. So there are set of 6 electrodes that are put on the chest, as you can see here in the diagram. So what happens is, because of all these 10 electrodes, the overall magnitude of the heart's electric potential is measured from different angles, and it covers the different anatomy of the body over a period of around 10 seconds. So in this way, the overall magnitude and direction of the heart's electric depolarization is captured at every moment throughout the cardiac cycle, throughout that the event of uh, depolarization and repolarization. So these natural electric signals are then sent into a machine, which is the electrocardiograph, and that translates them into a graph of wavy lines. So it's the set of these 10 electrodes. Now, that is the conventional electrocardiograph, which is the gold standard. But now in modern clinical practices, there are many more better methods to record an ECG. For example, there is again a bit older, but a pen recorder in which a pen records the ECG directly on moving paper. Now, in this, 3 electrographic bipolar limb leads are used, and electrocardiograph may be connected to an oscilloscope, which produces an ECG on a TV-like screen. Next, the more latest ones are the wearable technology. So you have now smartwatches and you have portable monitors, which can enable long-term monitoring and using just 2-lead or 3-lead setups. Then we have the ambulatory electrocardiography, which includes Holter monitors, as you can see here in the diagram. This is a Holter monitor. So this includes 24 to 48 hours of monitoring. So it measures intermittent arrhythmias, or it can even monitor the records, and can be worn for around up to 30 days, and it can measure your all electrical events throughout the day for 24 to 48 hours. So that is the Holter monitor. Now, common ECG monitoring types are the resting ECG, where 5 to 10 minutes rest की पोजीशन पे हम ईसीजी को मेजर करते हैं. एंड देन इज द स्ट्रेस ईसीजी, जिसको हम एक्सरसाइज ईसीजी भी कहते हैं या ट्रेडमिल टेस्ट कहते हैं. तो इसमें एक फिजिकल एक्सरसाइज कराते हुए, ट्रेडमिल के ऊपर रन कराते हुए आप हार्ट का रिस्पॉन्स एक ईसीजी को ऑब्टेन करते हैं. So what are the uses of ECG? It is used to detect heart conditions such as irregular heartbeats, जिसको हम arrhythmias कहते हैं, heart attacks, the size and position of the heart chambers, the presence of any sort of defect in the heart muscles, and structural issues by assessing the heart rate and rhythm. So this is the electrocardiogram. Thank you and stay blessed.